You're like a fire, untamable, unpredictable, and yet so incredibly beautiful. I wouldn't want you any other way. Your wildness is what makes you shine. When they say you're too wild for me, I can't help but smile, because in your wildness, I see a kind of strength, a kind of bravery, and I know it's exactly what I need. They'll never understand the beauty in your wildness, but I do. It's the part of you that makes me feel free, alive, and unafraid of what comes next. In a world full of rules and expectations, your wildness is a breath of fresh air. It's the kind of wild I want to hold on to forever. You're like a lightning strike, unexpected, intense, and unforgettable. In your wildness, I see a beauty that others might never understand. I don't want to tame you. I want to dance with you in the chaos. Together we can be wild and free, and that's exactly how I want to live. Every time they say you're too wild, I just want to laugh. Because wild is exactly what makes you who you are, and I wouldn't change a thing. They may think you're too wild for me, but they don't know how you make me feel. Alive, excited, and ready for whatever comes next. You're not just wild, you're a force of nature, and I'm here for it. In your energy, I find the kind of freedom I've always craved. People can't handle the wildness in you, but I find it intoxicating. It's the kind of wild that makes me want to throw away all the rules and just be. They say you're too wild, but I think they're just afraid of what it means to live without limits. You're exactly what I need to remind me that life is too short to play it safe. Your wildness is a gift, one that I treasure more than anything. It's the part of you that makes life an adventure, and I'm ready to dive in head first. Sometimes I think they're right. Maybe you are too wild for me. But then I remember that I've never felt more alive than I do when I'm with you. There's something beautiful about your wildness, something that pulls me in and makes me want to keep going, to keep chasing the next adventure with you. I know they think you're too wild, but I see something they don't. I see a soul that's free, a heart that's open, and a love that's worth fighting for. You're like a beautiful storm, and I'm standing right in the middle of it, loving every minute. You're not too wild for me. You're exactly what I need. The wildest things in life are often the most beautiful, and you, my love, are the perfect example of that. Your wildness is what makes you shine. They tell me you're too wild, but all I see is someone who's unafraid to live boldly, to love fiercely, and to take chances that make life worth living. You're wild, and I love it. In your unpredictability, I find a kind of magic, a kind of beauty that keeps me coming back for more. Sometimes I think about how they see you, untamed, too wild, and I realize that's exactly what draws me in. There's something magnetic about your freedom. Maybe wild is just another word for brave. And if that's the case, then you're the bravest person I know. You are wild, yes, but in that wildness, I see something real, something beautiful. It's the kind of raw honesty that makes me want to dive in head first. They say you're too wild, but all I see is someone who's unafraid to be themselves. And that's something I admire more than anything. You are a force of nature, unpredictable and wild. And I wouldn't have you any other way. Your wildness is what makes you unforgettable. You may be too wild for them, but for me, you are the spark that sets everything on fire. Your wildness is what makes everything feel alive. In a world full of people playing it safe, you're the one who dares to break the rules. And in that, I find something beautiful and inspiring. There's something about your wildness that makes me feel alive in a way I've never felt before. It's the kind of energy I've been craving. You're not just wild, you're a reminder to live without fear, to take chances, and to embrace every moment as if it could be your last. They think you're too wild, but they don't understand that your wildness is what keeps me grounded, what makes me want to run towards you every single time. Every time they say you're too wild, I think about how perfect you are, just as you are, wild, free, and absolutely captivating. Your wildness is magnetic, and I'm drawn to it like a moth to a flame. I wouldn't change a thing about you. The world can't handle the kind of wildness you possess, but I'm here for it. I'm here for all the chaos, all the passion, all the adventure. They say you're too wild, but what if wild is exactly what I need? What if it's your wildness that brings me to life in a way nothing else can? Sometimes I wonder if we were meant to be two wild souls, free of boundaries and expectations. But there's always someone who thinks we should be tamed. Maybe wild is who we were always meant to be. You're a whirlwind, an uncontainable force of nature, and I can't help but wonder if that's exactly what I need in my life right now. Someone who doesn't play by the rules, someone who doesn't care what anyone thinks. They say you're too wild, too unpredictable, but isn't that what makes life worth living? A little chaos, a little rebellion, a little breaking free from all the norms that hold us down. Maybe it's because I see so much of myself in you that I can't help but feel drawn to you. There's something beautiful about someone who doesn't apologize for being exactly who they are, no matter how wild it seems to others. I know they think you're too wild for me, but what they don't realize is that you bring a fire into my life that I never knew was missing. Sometimes wild is exactly what we need. Every time they say you're too wild for me, I think of how you challenge everything I know and how I'm starting to see the world in a new, more thrilling way. Maybe it's the wildness that brings us closer. There's a beauty in the wildness of your soul, a kind of freedom that's intoxicating. I wouldn't change a thing about you, not for the world. You're too wild, they say, but that's what makes you so irresistible. Maybe we're meant to live without boundaries, without rules, and just see where the wild takes us. What they don't understand is that wild isn't always reckless. It's a different kind of strength, a rawness that makes me feel more alive than I ever have before. Maybe wild is just another word for free, and I'm starting to realize that I've been living in a cage, waiting for someone like you to show me how to break out. You're a storm, and I'm standing in the rain, soaking it all in. I don't want to be dry, I want to be wild, and with you, I finally get the chance. They tell me you're too wild, but what if I told them that your wildness is exactly what I need? In your unpredictability, I see passion, spontaneity, and freedom, things I never knew I was craving. Sometimes I think they're right about you being too wild, but then I remember that the greatest love stories are always the ones that defy the rules, that go against the grain, that spark like fire in the night. In your wildness, I find a kind of peace, a rhythm that feels natural and freeing. I don't need tame, I need real, and you are nothing but real. They see chaos, but I see energy, passion, and a desire to live fully. You're not too wild for me. You're exactly the kind of wild I need. People don't always understand the beauty of someone who refuses to be anything other than themselves. They see the wildness, the unpredictability, but they miss the depth, the freedom, and the rawness of it all. What's life without a little chaos? What's love without a little unpredictability? You might be wild, but in that wildness, you've given me more than I could have ever asked for. There's something freeing about someone who lives without apologies, who embraces their wild side. You remind me every day that we're meant to live big, love big, and take risks. When you walk into a room, you bring with you an energy that can't be contained, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Your wildness is magnetic, and I find myself drawn to it more and more. You might be wild, but I see the beauty in your unpredictability. It's the spark in your soul that makes you so irresistible. Sometimes I think I'm not wild enough for you, but I'm learning to embrace the chaos, to dance to the rhythm of the unpredictable beat that is you. The world might tell you to settle down, to tame yourself, but I say, let's run wild. Let's be the storm, the fire, the ones who live outside the lines and make our own rules. I don't need you to be tame. I need you to be unapologetically you, wild, free, and full of passion. It's your wildness that makes me feel alive. There's a power in being wild, in breaking free from all expectations. And when you look at me with those daring eyes, I can't help but think that maybe, just maybe, we're both exactly what the other needs. They say you're too wild for me, but what they don't see is that in your wildness, I've found a place where I can finally be myself. Maybe we're both a little wild, and maybe that's exactly what makes us perfect for each other. The world is full of rules, and you don't follow any of them. That's what makes you so incredible. Your ability to live on your own terms, to embrace the chaos and dance with it. People say you're too wild, but I can't help but wonder if they're the ones who've got it all wrong. Maybe it's the wild ones who see the world as it truly is, beautiful, chaotic, and full of possibilities.